all in 1 year. He opened like his second gym, we got married, I opened my studio, and we had a baby, and we bought a house all in the same year. Like how we got through that, I do not know, but we did.
Are you quite spiritual?
Used to be, I would say. When I spent a lot of time in Ibiza, I definitely went down that sort of spiritual route, and then, was very Zen, meditation, all those things, and then I had children, and it all went out the window. Now I spend half of my life stressed out, tearing my hair out. There was just one tattoo. I think I only did one tattoo on that show two, where I really didn't want to do it. One of them was...
And like Instagram is not the way it used to be. Used to be able to just post and everyone would see it. Now you're like censored from your own following. Like I post something and hardly anyone sees it. So your reach is way down. If you want to fill cancellations, less likely to do that because no one sees it. It's just a pain in the ass. Kind of having a mortgage and all those kind of responsibilities, and a kid now as well. I'm definitely more lenient about taking stuff on. There was a period of time where I was heavy into the gym, and I went in a stage where I couldn't stand tattooing because it got in the way of eating. Like I used to eat 7 meals a day, all that stuff, go to the gym 5 days a week, and tattooing became a chore because gym was like my main focus. There's a lot of egos in tattooing.
Yeah.
But I think that's the case in most fields.
It's the same anywhere.
Dickheads everywhere. There's people that probably think I'm a dickhead, but that's life, isn't it? You're not going to please everyone, and if you try and do that, you'll never please yourself. So,
hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Alex Lloyd, and this is the 21st Century Tattoo. Sweet, Jodie, Andy, nice to meet you both.
And
Thank you so much for having me.
It's okay.
Yeah, really cool. This is good. I'm glad we kind of got this in the diary, and thank you for opening on a Sunday as well.
No worries.
It's cool.
Miss my roast dinner for this.
Yeah. I'm sorry to drag you away from your kids as well.
We don't mind. Do we?
It's all right.
So you both got quite young kids. I mean, how old are they?
Mine's 6 months, Vinny. So yeah, really young, really. Yeah. But he's just started nursery. So that means Donna can come back and work. And yeah, so that's good.
We were speaking a bit before we started recording, but like, how has that like changed your life, I guess, with tattooing? I presume, obviously we spoke about how you kind of had to drop your days down and stuff a bit, but like for anyone who's a tattoo artist, maybe doesn't have kids, like, is it a massive change?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's actually helped me fall back in love with tattooing, because for a while, I guess you know what it's like. You work 6 days a week, all night, all day, your whole life is tattooing, and then taking a step back from that and actually being really eager to get back into it and realise that that's who I am, and you lose yourself as a mum a little bit, and you're kind of like a slave to the house and a slave to the kids, and it's actually like tattooing's like a meditation, I guess. So it was so nice coming back to it and coming in and not thinking about the kids, because when I'm tattooing I'm not thinking about the kids, as bad as that sounds, and having 2 days a week just made me realise how passionate I was about it. And people think it's the opposite. People say to me like, oh, do you hate coming in now you've got a family? And I'm like, no, it's the polar opposite. I actually really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Have you found it's kind of changed your whole routine and stuff?
Not hugely, to be honest with you, because I've worked full time the whole way through. Like for Donna, it's kind of like the same position as obviously what Jodie was in. Like she had to stop tattooing, so like her life's changed massively. For me personally, not so much. Like maybe I'm kind of supposed to finish a bit earlier than what I do sometimes, but other than that, like, because sometimes I used to do quite late nights, which I can't really do too much now because it just interrupts really with like Vinny's routine. But yeah. That change has been pretty small for me though, to be honest. Yeah. So
maybe you're both like outstanding artists in your own right. I mean, been tattooing a long time now, tell me a little bit about this space, like being able to kind of just have this like private space, kind of you come out of like busier shops and kind of being able to have your own space. Yeah. How is it?
Yeah. So I always worked in a very busy shop, packed in like sardines, I guess. And I learned a lot from that shop, and it was nice to work with a lot of people and, be around different artists. But I wanted to almost come out of that and just have a really quiet space. and create my own space and I guess my own vibe in the studio rather than being under everybody else's. So I was looking for a private studio, and I actually had one before this that was above a gym, so it wasn't ideal. It's just a bit too small. Donna worked with me there, and Jordan Ferris, which you've probably seen his work. Jordan worked for me, and we had a really nice little setup, but we just outgrew the space. And then I moved into this place, which is perfect. It's in the middle of the country, you know, there's cows out the window. I like the fact that people can't walk in off the street. I know that's not necessarily always the best thing for the artist if they need the work, but that was just the setup that I wanted. So I found this space, and it used to be an old stable. And yeah, I loved it straight away. I just fell in love with it. And it's really cool now that Donna's come back, and the vibe is just exactly how I want it. So,
yeah. I mean, it was just you and Donna, was it, at the start?
So me and Donna worked in the same studio together, in the busy studio. And then she came with me to my one that I set up on my own. And then when I set this one up, Donna met Andy and he took her away from me. And she went to work with Andy up in Redditch. And now Donna's come back to Bristol. She's come back here and she's brought Andy with her. So
yeah, nice. How long have you been with Donna, and how long have you been working?
I think it's about 3 years now. And we worked together at the church for maybe like a year or so, I think. But then also like the whole pandemic things come in. So it was a bit of a disrupted time, to be honest. But yeah, like I've always been in like busy studios where everyone's busy, like everyone's tattooing all day. But to be honest, like I do really like this kind of, it's just chilled. Like I love the fact that it's down the road from Bristol, but you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, and
that's what because I was looking when I was driving down here. We were in the middle of Bristol, and it said like 5 minutes away. And I'm thinking, hang on, like because you'd sent me that video, and like it's obviously quite rural.
Such a change.
So yeah, it's crazy to be able to like be so close to that stuff. I told you earlier, like we're obviously planning like a move to go somewhere a bit busier, and it's you've just got to. I guess you just got to be comfortable.
The only downfall about being rural is there is no shops around, you know, so you have to say to your customers, don't forget to bring your lunch. And like there is that downside to it. But at the same time, like Sainsbury's is just 10 minutes down the road. So, and we can get into Bristol really quickly. So I do like that. Yeah.
You prefer this sort of vibe.
Yeah.
I guess what I want to do, let's take it back a little bit, because I always like what I'm just fascinated about is how artists got to this point, you know. And like I said, you like your work is incredible. You've obviously spent years perfecting your craft. Like how, I guess I want to know like where it all began for like each of you. Maybe talk me through just like realizing that you actually wanted to do tattooing, and maybe how that kind of manifested itself.
Yeah, I mean, I started getting tattooed at 18, and a girlfriend at the time was, why don't you give that a go? And I just thought, yeah, all right, go on in. And I was 19, I taught myself at home, my bedroom.
Oh, mad.
So I was working out of my bedroom for like 18 months, something like that. And then I got a chance to work at a shop where I used to get tattooed, like a local shop. I was there for 5 years, like a street shop, like crazy characters in there, tattooing all styles, always busy in there, doing tons of tattoos every day, walk-ins, everything. Had a really good time there, and then I moved to Australia and I started tattooing in Melbourne, and that was when I think Instagram as well helped me and a lot of people just to kind of push what you want to do rather than what comes through the door. And I think that was the sort of time when my work just kind of went in a certain direction, and I was able to fund my life just doing custom work basically. And that was probably 7-8 years ago now. So I've just done custom work for the last 7-8 years. But my style has changed tons since I kind of started doing it really.
Did you know you always wanted to, I mean, how would you define the style? I mean, it's really obviously vivid, like colour.
I don't know really, like it's just large scale imagery based kind of on realism, but without that constraint, because I can kind of go off the path of it a bit really. But I mean, I used to do trad. I used to do big bold lines. I used to do like weird cubic stuff. I used to draw everything from scratch. Now I'm just straight on Pinterest and like, that image is cool. Edit it on Procreate. Just, you know what I mean? Do my thing with it, change the colours. Just put it together on there.
Do you mess about with doing trad anymore?
No. Nah. Like,
even for mates or anything?
nah. Like, I just literally do my stuff. Like, I'm getting back into doing a bit more spacey kind of vibe stuff as well, which I used to do a lot, which I'm enjoying again because I just went off it and got bored of it. But I'm enjoying it again now. So I'm kind of mixing some spacey kind of elements back into my work as well. The
compositions are mad. Like, it's the exact opposite of the way my brain works. But I can really appreciate it. It's crazy stuff. I actually had do you know Tommy Farrow? Tommy. He does like like a similar vibe, like some surrealism, but a bit more horror and black and grey. And again, like fascinating with how it's kind of you put that stuff together. But no traditional like apprenticeship.
No, like learned on the job really. Got to a certain point at home where my work was all right, and then just thrown in the deep end really. Street shop, tapping people like first day. That's it. We're doing what comes in.
And that, I mean, that's gonna. You must have learned off a lot of the people in that.
Yeah,
shop.
like just asking questions and just like I feel like you have to find your own way for the most part, whether you're having an apprenticeship or doing it yourself. Like I think you got to figure a lot of stuff out yourself, but having people around you that do know what they're doing does stop you making as many mistakes, because I made a load at home, that's for sure. But it is what it is.
Well, that's it. I guess like it's all about making those mistakes in it and failing. That's gonna just like advance you so much quicker than someone who's like stays sheltered. Like I was having this conversation as well about private studios, and I think it's one of those things that you can probably only really, in my opinion, explore once you've already got that knowledge. Because if you're not around other artists, how are you going to learn and progress?
Yeah. How did you
really kind of get into it all?
So, funnily with me, I was coming out of school, going into college, and I was actually enrolled on a hair and beauty course because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And then right at the last minute, I thought, what am I doing? But I always got taught that, you couldn't make money out of art. And I was like, that's why I went down the hair and beauty route, because I was following people's recommendations, I guess. Like, come on, how are you I always remember my brother eats his words big time now. You're never gonna make money out of art. I'm a plasterer, I'm making money. Like I'm 16, I'm making like whatever he was making, like 60 quid a day.
Yeah.
And now he like eats his words so bad. But at the last minute I was like, what am I doing? I need to follow my passion at the end of the day, which was drawing. And then I was too late to enroll in the art course, but I was like, please just see me. And I went in, and I think the art teacher was a bit of a pervert, to be honest.
Really?
And he let me on the course just by staring at down my top most of the time. But whatever, I got in on that course. And then actually for one of my projects, I decided to do a sleeve design for a tattoo. Obviously did not have a clue how to do it, but I did it. I just did it on a sheet of paper, and I was like, do you know what? I really loved doing that. And then my dad, who's really heavily tattooed, knew a guy that was a tattooist, and he said, would you buy my daughter's artwork basically for designs and stuff? Way back before Procreate was a thing. Yeah. So and then in the end I ended up getting an apprenticeship with that guy. So yeah, I went from there really. And then I was telling Andy earlier, so I worked there for about a year for free, for nothing, just getting my bus money from my mum because I was only 18 at the time. And then my ex-boyfriend moved to Plymouth, and I was like, right, I want to move to Plymouth. So I remember going into this biker shop on the high street with my little folder of terrible tattoos in, and I was like, would you give me a job? And they were like, yeah. And then a big guy called John took me under his wing, and he was so nice. And I learned a lot there. Yeah. It was like a conveyor belt of tattoos all day long, but we were saying how that actually really helped us. Yeah. Looking back now is crazy, but it really helped us.
You mean a high street
shop?
Yeah,
just street shop.
Doing all styles, all sorts. Yeah. Actually having to do them really quickly. Yeah. And probably really terribly back then. But yeah, and then I moved back to Bristol, and like the rest is history, really.
Yeah. I say this as well, it's like the small stuff. God almighty, when I first started, I was like, I didn't really know enough about it. I guess there wasn't a lot of information online. Yeah. And it was like, I ended up in a biker shop, or a couple there's one near us, it was like £10 tattoos, and it was like proper 90s, and they're like flash on the walls, rows of chairs, like yeah. I'm not gonna dig anything out, but like I was drawing up designs for the artists and stuff, and then like quite quickly realised they were taking the piss. And moved around a few shops. But that, like, working in an environment like that, where you've got to get the little stuff done. Is your bread and butter for
and
sure.
You know what, you realise very quickly that you have to pull your big girl pants up, because it's quite hard when you're so young, like I was, and you're working for people that are actually quite intimidating. You learn a lot, I think, as a woman as well. You learn a lot.
You have to learn quick.
Yeah, you do.
I guess a question I wanted to ask you both, really, like, could you pinpoint one pivotal moment in your career that maybe kind of really accelerated your career and got you to where you are today? Maybe whether that was a moment or a person you met.
I think that was moving to Australia for me. Working around people that they all specialised in specific styles. I felt that was a really good environment to be in, to kind of push your work, push my work anyway. So yeah, I think that probably.
What was the decision to move to Australia?
I'd always wanted to go. I was just always kind of like, I just fancied going basically. And then my girlfriend at the time was like not interested. And then we split up and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go to Australia. So I did, and just moved over there by myself. I had nowhere to live, nowhere to work, and just got in a hotel room, spent nearly 2 weeks in there. My money was running out. And then I got a job and a house when I was like literally close to having to come home. And then never looked back really. So yeah, that was a good experience. Just being on the other side of the world. It was cool. Yeah. It's a good experience. I recommend it to anyone really.
How important is it to travel around, like with your job?
I think it's really important, but I feel like for me personally, I've kind of been there, done it now, and I feel like I just want to kind of settle and just be in my own bubble. I'll probably change again at some point and want to be a bit more, get out there and do things again. But I just think like new baby, everything like that, I just think realistically, that's going to have to be my focus. Do you know what I mean? So that changes you, doesn't it? Like, you know yourself having kids.
Yeah, it does. And I've never really travelled with it. I wouldn't say that I've ever really had the confidence. I've always been quite like harsh on myself, I guess, and feel like, I'm not good enough to ask them for a guest spot and those things. So I've always sort of kept myself to myself. But I did, when I was 24, go to Ibiza for a couple of seasons and take my tattooing out there, and I got a job in a shop, but it kind of took me back to the days where you just, anything's coming through the door. Yeah. But then when I actually built up, I guess, my own network out there, a lot of friends, a lot of the workers that were all the same age as me, I then took my tattooing back private and was getting to do things that I actually wanted to tattoo again. So I stayed out there for like 2 years doing that. So that was probably like the furthest I ventured out with my tattooing, but nothing compared to Andy.
I mean, I haven't actually tattooed outside of the UK. We're meant to be lining up LA for next year, which would be good. But like, does it vary massively? Like maybe in the clientele compared to the UK? Any like major differences that you kind of notice?
In America, they tip you. A lot sometimes, because I worked in Florida and Atlanta.
It's not a thing here, is it?
No, not at all. But no. I said to Jodie earlier, getting tattooed here is, compared to like America, Australia, New Zealand, a lot of European countries, it's cheap. Here is cheap. Like, it's really expensive in them countries. But like I said, people generally won't pay it here. Like, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I'm not complaining about the money I earn, to be honest with you. But if you go to these other countries, you can charge a lot more.
Why is that? Do you think?
I don't know. I know certainly at the minute, like
it should be, obviously.
The financial climate at the minute here is obviously not great. So I get that, but I couldn't tell you why it is a lot cheaper here. I don't know, but people wouldn't pay it. I don't think a lot of people.
English mentality, maybe just what they feel that something's worth. compared to what it is actually worth. I don't know.
I feel like it's like that across the board with a lot of trades as well.
Yeah.
People bartering or trying. I mean, fortunately, like, don't get it as much now. But like, yeah, when I started out, maybe it was the shops I was working in. But yeah, people do. Yeah, I don't know. It's all
It's
about
funny
knowing your
because
worth,
we
isn't
were
it?
saying as well, weren't we, that sometimes you almost feel guilty for charging a certain amount, but then you think of like how many years you've put into and how many years you worked for nothing and earned nothing and had no money and all those things.
Do you feel like? Do you feel guilt at all?
I'm terrible with it. I'm so bad. Yeah, at the end of the day, especially if I feel like I've been doing something and, you know, I've not got a lot down, or
You've had one too many coffee breaks or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just not very good at being like, you know, this is what my time's worth. And I've definitely tried to get better over the years with that. I don't know if it's because I'm a female. That sounds a bit sexist, but I'm a little bit more like, oh, I don't know if I can charge that because, yeah, like you said, I've had more breaks, or I've not got as much done today as I wanted to get done. But it's all about the end result, right? The customer obviously would rather you do less and it look better. But I'm terrible with it.
Me, not really. But because I do massive tattoos and I tattoo quick.
Oh, you're quite quick with it, yeah.
Yeah,
so quick.
I do tons of coverage. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't do many single days. Most of my appointments are 2 or 3 days in a row.
Really?
Yeah.
There are a lot. See, I want to know this as well. Do a lot of clients actually can they sit for it?
Sit really well.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, yeah. I don't have too many issues. And day one, I tend to do like a big chunk, and then like day 2 will be less, day 3 will be less. So the days get easier for them as they go along, and I tend to target the worst places on day 1 as well.
Yeah.
But they all seem to sit really well, to be honest with you. Like, I wouldn't want to sit for 2 days. I wouldn't want to sit for a day. But that's how I like to work. And like, I always used to struggle, to be honest, as well, with someone would book in for a sleeve, but they'd book one appointment, and then 6 months, 8 months later, they book in a second appointment. And there's like, my work changes a lot. Personally, my work changes a lot. So it doesn't really work because they've got something like started nearly 2 years ago. And then by the end of it, like, what I'm doing is completely different. And the thing is with me, I'm not going to go backwards just because you've got old work from me and do something that I would have done like 2 years ago. If my style's changed and evolved, you're going to get what I'm doing at the time. That's just how it is.
How do you kind of explain that to clients? Because I struggle with this because I do patchwork stuff as well. So I don't know whether it's more noticeable because you can't blend it together as much. But yeah, I'll start stuff. Was doing a lot more bolder line work, and now I'm kind of really trying to do more of the single needle. And there's just like a massive difference.
That's a big clash, though, isn't it? Like, but I don't really explain it, if I'm being honest. If someone books in and I'm just like, my customers are really chilled. Like, I'm really lucky with my customers. They kind of just leave me to do what I want to do. It's either completely free reign, or they'll just give me a loose idea and then I'll just do my own thing with it.
That's so good, though. That's when you can create your best work, right? Because I just feel like, again, that's probably something I'm not as good with. I'm kind of like easily talked into doing what they want to do. And that's always the stuff that you're not as proud of when someone just lets you do your thing. Obviously, it shows. But again, I'm probably taking an elbow nudge into the wrong direction and just like, oh, okay, kind of thing.
What I guess I would want to know, what would be your ideal brief then, or like ideal client from kind of start to finish? Do you, like you said, you have your clients will just come to you and they'll just say complete free reign?
Yeah.
Do they give you any idea? Because that would throw me off. I'd need some sort of direction.
Like most of the time, like I said, it's just a loose idea. Like, you know, they'll say, oh, I really want to get like a woman's face. Like, and I'm like, cool. And I just hit Procreate, look at some references and just come up with whatever I come up with. Like, so I just like a loose idea. And fortunately, that's what I get from basically all my customers. So like most of my customers, I would say, are my ideal customers. Like, I'm just fortunate that but I think my style and the way I work promotes those type of customers, to be honest. Like, I think what style of work you do does tend to dictate the type of customer base you get as well, to a degree.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
So, I think just the way I do things, but also I insist on customers booking in for like 2 or 3 days, or I probably won't book them in because I want to design the thing as a whole, and I want it to all flow and work together. I don't want to be doing one area and then it's not linked to like another area of the sleeve or whatever, which is how I used to work.
Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't work, and you're not going to get the best from me personally, like unless you let me kind of work the way I want to work, which is over multiple days and very little briefing from customers, really. So yeah, I appreciate my customers that is how they are, because I know a lot of customers aren't that way.
Yeah.
So,
like, what's the kind of the drive there and the motivation? Like, are you trying to like push a certain shape of work, or do you know what I mean? Like you're saying there, you want people to come in for like 2 or 3 days. Is that so that you can work at a certain scale, or is it so that you can publish that work?
It's both. Yeah, it's both, because whatever you're posting online is generally what you get asked for. And I want to do large scale work, oversized imagery, big tattoos, like impactful tattoos. And to do that, even though I work fast, but realistically I need more than a day to really do it. So that's why working 2 or 3 days is like perfect for my work and how I want to do things. And it's great, but then if you get cancellations, like that can really fuck your week up.
Because
one person drops out, then that's like 2 or 3 days gone, and if you can't fill it and stuff. But it is what it is, swings and roundabouts. I'd still rather take that risk and be doing the stuff I want to do. So
cancellations, man. We'll get onto that. One of the newest additions to the Ghost cartridges range, or the Hex range rather, is the stipple shaders. These ones that I'm using here are like 4 tight 3s all arranged in a row, give you like a nice smooth stipple over a large area. Make sure you grab these now. I've got a discount code below. What about yourself, like projects and stuff? Anything interesting you're working on, or like the ideal client?
I think with me, what I try to do when I've got some spare time is to sit down and save my own reference photos of things that I would like to do, whether that be, you know, images on Pinterest, etc. And then when I do get someone come to me and they're kind of like, you can have free reign, I've got a whole lot of images to show them. I'll send them the whole lot. They could be worlds apart, and they'll usually, you know, edge towards something. Then I've got something to work with, because most of the time I do have a little bit of a brief, but sometimes I do have the odd customer that's like, what do you want to do today? And then I'm like, oh, so then at least I've got like a backup of bits that I want to do. Or sometimes I don't really get that time anymore with kids, but we'll put some designs together almost ready to go that I want to do. And I definitely feel like that is where my best work shows, is when I've done something that I want to do.
What is that like?
I think all day long, if I could choose, I would like to tattoo, and I don't get enough of it, to be honest. I love tattooing animals, different textures, something that I can get my teeth stuck into, and portrait stuff.
Yeah.
Mainly for me. But sometimes it just goes that I don't have any of that in, and then I feel like I've got nothing to post. Because going back to what Andy said, people want what you're posting. So it's like you don't really want to post the stuff that you don't want to tattoo again. And then you find yourself, or you tattoo something really nice, I don't know, a gambling sleeve, just say, and then you get 10 inquiries of all about having a gambling sleeve, and you're like, can't do that again. That's what I struggle with. And then you're turning work down, which I don't always like doing, but I also feel like there's only so many ways you can reproduce that, like, you know, that brief, I guess.
Because they're like, I've done that before and I've drawn something, which is like, I've tried, it's similar, but it's not the same. Maybe I've used like it's a different swallow with like different geometric or whatever. But like you say, there's only... Everyone
wants that one. And you're like,
or they'll say like it's crazy, this whole thing within Instagram. It's like we fall into the trap of creating stuff. You're like trying to feed the machine.
Yeah.
But then, clients will look at it and think, oh, well, I can't see any lines on the page, so he can't do lines. And it's only when you then post something like all of a sudden, oh, well, he'll do a swallow now. So like, swallow. It's a very, very difficult one. But then don't have enough time to draw flash.
Yeah.
To direct that, I don't know. It's a weird one. But it's a good problem to have, isn't it?
And it's also trying to find a balance of like what you want to tattoo, but also what the people want to see.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't want to post something because you're like, it's so overdone. Like, I don't know, say a lion, but you know that if you post that lion, you're going to get like 10 new inquiries. So then you've got a lot of work, but then it's like you also don't want to be tattooing 10 lights. So it's just trying to find a balance, I guess.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
And not fall into the trap of just doing one thing.
Yeah.
Or at least that for me, that's what I don't want to just pigeonhole myself too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So let's just talk about the studio briefly, because I haven't actually spoken to you about it. So Studio 223. Talk to me a little bit about the vision for the place, I guess, and the idea behind the name.
Yeah, so the idea behind the name was, I knew I wasn't ever going to have like this traditional style studio with, you know, like, I don't know, black anchor, or it just wasn't fitting to me, I don't think. So I always wanted something with like a number. The reason it being like TWO2 and then 23 is because the number 2 and the number 23 has just got like a massive significance to me. Like everything always ends up with like in the 20s, or, you know, like 2 or 23, 22, like all those numbers, like down to my kids' birthdays, like the date I got married, my birthday, like I'm the 23rd, but everything just always ends up like with 2s in it, like my husband's, like the 2nd, my kid's the 20th, the 22nd, I'm the 23rd, got married on the 22nd, like death dates, born dates, like all these dates is always like 22, 23. So that was where Studio 223 came from.
Are you quite spiritual?
Used to be, I would say. I used to, when I spent a lot of time in Ibiza, I definitely went down that sort of spiritual route, and then, you know, was very Zen, meditation, all those things, and then had children. And it all went out the window. Now I spend half of my life stressed out, tearing my hair out. But it's definitely a practice that I would love to get back into. But at the minute, it's just, no, it's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm lucky if I get to drink a coffee.
There you go. Yeah, it's weird because I'm the same, and I kind of do believe in a lot of that stuff. You see these repetitive numbers, and there's meant to be a meaning behind them. So it's interesting that you pick up on that as well, because I don't think everyone maybe picks up on it.
No, and I always think, do you know, that's going to happen on the 22nd or the 23rd, and it always does.
Or maybe
like it
you're
just
manifesting
always,
it to happen.
or that, and it always does. So yeah, that was the idea behind the numbers, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I really love what you've done with the place as well.
Donna likes to tell people it's how many people I've slept with when they ask, because people ask it all the time, and then she just says that, and then everyone looks at me like, oh my God. And then I have to say she's only joking. Yeah, it's a common question, yeah.
What, 223?
Hopefully not.
No, so I was going to ask you. I wanted to make sure that I was getting it right as well. I couldn't. But yeah, it's really cool. And I like what you've done with it. I think we spoke briefly about how you're going to make a few amendments, but you feel like you're kind of, this is you now, and you've got your space and you're settled.
Yeah, I was saying
such a cool team as well.
Yeah, really cool team. Really happy. All I ever wanted was people to love where they work and be happy. For me, opening a studio wasn't about making a lot of money. I make my own money, and that's what I see as being successful. I don't rely on other people's money, and I never like people to feel like pressured around money or feel bad that they've got cancellations and they're not coming in. Like, it's not a money maker for me. I've got like other side businesses anyway, so this is just like my Zen place that I like everybody to be happy in. That's my main goal.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's got a good vibe. Bro, so working, like, obviously now work with Donna.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like a working relationship and working with your partner in the same industry.
To be honest with you, like, I mean, we used to do it at the church anyway. It's just not really a thing. Like, we're both busy. We both do full days. Like, so we just get on with what we're doing. Like, it's just not an issue in any way, shape or form, positive or negative. It's just we work in the same studio. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a thing. So yeah, like there is no, I know like there can be like a lot of issues with that going on, like with some couples, but I think we're both like pretty chilled out. So it's just it's the best thing ever, because I work with my partner, and it genuinely is the best thing. Like, if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, I'd have said no fucking way.
I would say no way. Even though me and my like husband, obviously we get on very well, I still wouldn't want to work with him. But then now I've seen Donna and Andy working together, which is the first working relationship that I've worked around. You don't get time to talk to each other, do you? You're both doing your own thing. Yeah. As long as you're like not a jealous person or, you know, given daggers because they're tattooing someone's ass or something. There's not an issue, is there? But
No.
I still, I like to go home to my husband and not have to look at him all day.
That's great. Well, he's quite busy, isn't he? I mean, I had a look. So he's in like fitness and you said you got a couple of bit of businesses here and there. Talk to me about what you've got
he's
going
in
on.
sort of like the fitness and nutrition industry, basically. So he's got a couple of gyms, but actually things have changed a lot since COVID. His business models were very different before COVID to what they have to be now. So he's had a tough couple of years, a few struggles trying to change with the world, I guess.
Yeah.
And now we're going through this money crisis, and his was kind of like a business model that was based upon guided training, so group training, personal training, rather than just like open gym memberships. Whereas now is just very different. People don't have the money, so he's been sort of adapting to that. So alongside, I think all in 1 year, he opened like his second gym. We got married. I opened my studio, and we had a baby, and we bought a house all in the same year. Like how we got through that, I do not know, but we did. So it's good. So he's really busy down that route. Obviously, what I do is polar opposite. He's got no tattoos. He's not got one tattoo. He's not creative at all. But it works. I don't know how, but it does.
Yeah, that's good. Right, I'm going to have a swig of my coffee, I think.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That's going to be cold now.
No, it's all right. I'm going to neck it. If you're enjoying the podcast this week, don't forget to leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to your podcast. It really helps the podcast grow. Obviously got quite a big following on social media, particularly on your personal account. Do you, and you talk about kind of keeping that separate, do you think it's important to keep it separate, and work should be work, or they should be intertwined?
Yeah, I think like originally when I first started my personal account, I had like both bits on there. I used to do like a lot of fashion blogging and stuff, more so now I don't get time to get dressed in the mornings, but and I would show some of my tattoos and stuff on there, but I soon realized what my niche was and what people did want to see and what people didn't want to see. And I just find that on my tattoo page, people don't want to see my kids, like they want to see my tattoos. And on my personal page,
they don't want to see tattoos.
The mums, they don't want to see my tattoos. They're not interested. They want to see my kids. Yeah. So I've toyed with it a little bit. And I do feel like now I think I should make a bit of a change. And on my tattoo one, not so much involve my kids, but involve my personality a bit and put my face on my stories a bit more and talk to people. But then I do just feel like I'm being judged a little bit. Like, yeah, and it's almost like it's gone on too long now. I've almost been too quiet on there. And then why all of a sudden am I going to be like, oh, hey, it's me. So it's just trying to, again, find that balance is difficult. I think like Instagram is a full-time job now. And I've kind of just accepted the fact that as long as people see my work, that's all I want.
Yeah. Do you try and show yourself much on social?
Not really. I can't be bothered.
No. Fair enough.
I hate how much you have to be bothered and in how much you have to invest in social media. Yeah. It's a pain in the ass. And like Instagram is not the way it used to be. Used to be able to just post and everyone would see it. Now you're like censored from your own following. Like I post something and hardly anyone sees it. So your reach is way down. If you want to fill cancellations, less likely to do that because no one sees it. It's just a pain in the ass. Unless you want to start paying all the time to promote stuff, which I don't want to do. Unless I'm really, really struggling for bookings, there's no way I'm going to do that. But yeah, it's just a load of crap in it, really, now.
But we have to use it.
So there you go. But yeah, I feel that I do have to use it because even though it is shit, it's where all my work comes from still. So what choice have you got? You haven't really.
Yeah, it's true.
And then you see what everybody else is doing and you're like, wow, like even like yourself, like I've looked on your Instagram, like, wow, he's got all these amazing reels. They're all like so well edited and this and that. And then you're like, oh, how can I do that as well as tattoo, as well as do my designs? Like, obviously, fortunately for you, you've got someone in-house helping you out and that's really good. But I think like, you're always trying to sort of like catch up with people and it becomes really stressful.
And then and that really is what you don't want to do, is fall out of love
Yeah.
with what you're doing, and that is the one thing which I will make sure that never happens.
Yeah.
You know, there are definitely days, aren't there, where you're having a creative block and shit's going on and you just can't be asked. I know I need to take time out from tattooing sometimes, and I just don't. Are you good at saying no to stuff in life?
In life or in general, or tattooing?
I guess.
Yeah, like if I don't really want to do something, I'll be like, nah. I mean, it's the same in tattooing as well. Like, but I said to Jodie, I think since, you know, kind of having a mortgage and all those kind of responsibilities and a kid now as well, I'm more lenient about taking stuff on. There was a period of time where I'd just be like, no chance. But now I'm a lot more like open to it and kind of like, yeah, okay, do you know what? Why not? Just because work's work, and at the end of the day, you've got bills to pay. So, you know,
do you love it? Do you love tattooing stuff?
Yeah, like I do. Yeah, I used to be like heavy into the gym, and I went in a stage where I couldn't stand tattooing because it got in the way of eating. Like I used to eat 7 meals a day, all that stuff, go to the gym 5 days a week, and tattooing became a chore because gym was like my main focus.
Yeah.
And then again, moved to Australia and I stopped caring about the gym. Like I still went, but it didn't consume my life. And that's when I really started getting back into tattooing and enjoying it. So like 16 years of tattooing, and that was the only period that I've not enjoyed tattooing, is where I just was like mad about the gym. So yeah, otherwise it's been great ride.
Do you think there will come a time for either of you where you'll just put the machine down? Are you planning that?
If I can afford to retire, but the way things are, who knows? Because retirement seems like an impossible dream now.
Yeah.
So like I've got some money things put in other things, other directions, which like could pay off. Which I think you kind of need to do really if you want to just retire, no matter what you do now, because it's so difficult. And I think like I'm only mid-30s, but I do think about stuff like that now, like retirement and stuff. Not that I'm in a rush to do it, but I just want to be able to retire and enjoy life and not have to work forever in it. Yeah, like but yeah, like I would like to be tattooing definitely into my 50s. I think that might change, but
that doesn't seem so far away. It's not like, for you. It's like 15 years.
15. Yeah. But eventually, obviously, but yeah, not in any time soon. Like, I'd like to maybe tattoo less. I think you said in it 3 days is 3 days would be like perfect. But I could probably afford to do 3 days a week, but I can't really justify it. When I'm in my 30s, I should be working, as far as I'm concerned, I should be working full time. Like 3 days should be when I'm in my like late 40s, 50s. You know, I feel that's justifiable. But yeah.
I think with me as well, I've always tried to, you know, can I imagine myself like a 60-year-old woman, like sat in the tattoo chair, like hunched over, tattooing. And I'm like, I don't know if I can. I think like you'll always have that craving to obviously be creative and do something. So I know that I will always be in this industry, but I have toyed with the idea of maybe doing some kind of course on more like the medical route of tattooing. You see like a lot of tattoo artists now have gone down the route of like breast reconstruction, tattooing realistic nipples, all that. I love the thought of that as I get older and being in more of a kind of clinic vibe, but still being able to tattoo. But I don't know, because I just don't know if I would actually miss tattooing.
Yeah, the creative
imagery, being creative. And there's no restrictions, is there, with like tattooing, whereas when you're actually tattooing like 2 identical nipples on,
I mean,
like
that's a lot of pressure.
So I just don't know if that would be for me, but I have toyed with the idea of, shall I sort of like be open to other sorts of tattooing, you know?
Yeah, I feel like being a woman though, you know, like you're like the perfect, you've got the perfect attributes at least for that, you know, people especially in needing those services. Or
that's it. It's easier to broaden your horizons, I guess. Like you got all the semi-permanent makeup tattooing now, like Lil does upstairs, and like I said, the medical tattooing, scar camouflage. Like there is actually a massive market for that out there. Yeah, maybe I'll try it one day. But I don't know what the nipples would turn out like. But I'm not a colour artist either, so I'm not sure.
Give
but
them a go.
Yeah.
Just do black and grey nipples, it'd be fine. Can you imagine? Anyway, I shouldn't laugh. So yeah, tell you what, we haven't spoken about a little bit about was just tattooables and maybe how you ended up. You don't want to talk about that?
No, I'm joking. It's okay. It's fine.
No, just because I've spoke to we've had Danny on the podcast before as well.
Mm-hmm.
How did that actually come about? How did you end up getting picked up to go on that? You probably get asked this all the time, but I'm interested.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I got approached literally via Instagram DM, just, hello, we're working on behalf of MTV. There's a show. We can't tell you too much, but can we arrange a phone call? A show that we want to do. So I had a phone call with them, and I didn't know too much about the show, but how it was pitched to me was very different to how it actually went down. So anyway, I went through the interview process up in London, got through the rounds or however they like to do it. And yeah, I got asked to be on the show, which for me was like amazing. I don't know how old I was. I was maybe 26. So I was...
Where were you at, like, with your tattooing at that point? Following and...
I had come back from Ibiza after 2 years. My following was not massive, but growing, maybe like 6,000 followers. So not bad for, like just being in Bristol and only having my client base in Bristol, but also not amazing. But it was growing. And then, I went up to London, did a month's filming. As soon as the show was aired, my followers just went like they went up. To be fair, like it was down to the show, I would say that, and it's good because you actually, as much as the people that are following you for the show, you're getting your work out there, which is obviously is half the battle, basically. So my following did go up through that, and I was really nervous when it got aired because I was like, like I said, without going too much into it, I didn't really know the concept of the show. It was very different to what I expected. Like. Yeah.
What did they kind of sell it to you as being like?
So 2 people going in to get a tattoo, and mum and daughter choosing a tattoo for each other, and then here's your tattoo.
Yeah,
like
wholesome.
Yeah. And we got there and it was very much not like that. Every artist that was there, and like Callie Jo was one of the artists on the show. So she'd already had a big following. So I guess we all literally freaked out. I guess she had a lot more to lose than I did. I didn't really have nothing to lose. I did it. And, it only served a good purpose for me, really. I was expecting a hardcore backlash off of it, but it never happen. And I feel like after the first season, people knew what they were letting themselves in for when they went on the show because it had already been aired. So if you apply for that show, like,
what it was,
you're just stupid, right?
Yeah.
You're just stupid. It's your own fault.
Yeah.
So after that, I was way more relaxed. But luckily for me, I got to do a lot of the portrait stuff anyway. So although it may have been an ex-girlfriend or someone's mum, it wasn't horrendous, like the tampons hanging out the legs and stuff. So I actually feel like I got away with it quite well.
Was there ever a point where you thought, I shouldn't be doing this, or you maybe, I don't know, there was any regret, or do you stand by what you did and you're happy with it?
Yeah, no. There was just one tattoo. I think I only did one tattoo on that show two, where I really didn't want to do it. One of them was a full-size bra on a man's chest. And it was black and it was lace and it was the straps. It was everything. But it was his girlfriend that chose that. So I was like, 1, that's just really dumb. Like, you've got to look at that for the rest of your life. And 2...
What does he do when he goes on holiday?
I know. Well, I was thinking, oh my God, how do I get out of doing this? Because I couldn't say to the producer, I'm not doing this.
So you have to do it.
But you kind of have to do it. You're like, yeah, you kind of have to do it.
Sign
you get
contract.
this brief. Yeah. So Anyway, fortunately for me, he was an absolute knobhead, right? I fucking hated him. So I refused to do the tattoo. I got maybe half a cup done on one side and he wound me up so much. He was like touching the tattoo, like the fresh tattoo with his hands. He had a complex about his arms. He didn't want to get his arms out. So he's pulling his shirt up. And it got to the point where I actually physically couldn't tattoo him. But in the back of my head, I was thinking, if I get out doing this tattoo, then amazing, because I've not got that guilty conscience and I've not got to sit with this asshole. So he ended up with half a cup, which I'm sure he's got covered now. So that was fine.
Have you seen it since?
No, but one of the clips went viral on Lad Bible because I literally kicked off at him so bad. And I think I was calling him a pussy and all sorts because he was really nasty. He wasn't very nice to me either. So I've not seen him since, but he's like all over Facebook and Lad Bible. I'm sure he's got a lot of hate for the way that he spoke to me.
God, it's crazy.
And then there was another one, which actually I don't even want to talk about. I don't want to talk about that one. But it was a big tattoo, a very big tattoo on a young girl from Bristol. And I really didn't want to do it. But I did it as a thin outline because I knew just did it with a laser. It would come off in a couple of sessions. Okay. So I did work my way around that one. But that was the only two really bad ones that I had to do, to be honest.
Andy, would you ever do anything?
No. I was asked to do Ink Master ages ago, and I just didn't reply. Like, if people want to go on telly, I don't give a shit. It doesn't affect me one way or the other. Like, I don't care. But for me personally, I'm just not interested in it. Like, I'd rather just tattoo my clients in the studio and just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not anything I've been into.
Have you ever done any anything wild in your sort of tattooing career?
What, as in tattoos?
Yeah.
Vagina or anything?
Like
nice colour, surrealism vagina.
Actually, I have actually. I've tattooed a vagina.
Nice. How was it?
But yeah, it's great. No, but I mean, like, not really. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not really. Like, I kind of, my stuff's kind of abstract anyway and a bit surreal anyway. So like, in general, my work's kind of a bit different. So, but like, I take tattooing serious in a way that I think, you know, you should be working hard to do the best work that you can. So if someone, it depended what the idea was, but I don't want to do silly tattoos. Do you know what I mean? Like, I went through a stage where I kind of maybe was more open to that, but I really want to take my work as far as I can and just try and improve
for your work and respect for that.
Just get as good as I possibly can. Do you know what I mean? That's like a big focus for me. Like, so yeah, but like the TV stuff, like, yeah, it's not something I would do, but I get why some people might want to do it and things like that. Like, but yeah.
Do you regret not replying to the message from Inkmaster?
No. I don't watch any of these programs. It's just not anything that's interested me. I've seen a bit of was it Just Tattoo? I've seen that a bit, and what's the other one that come out that everyone hated in this country? Tattoo Fixers. I feel like that was a really bad one because it was like, again, from what I heard, was like similar conditions to where the artists and the customers were just taking a piss out of, really, by the producers. I personally wouldn't stand for it. I don't care if I sign a contract. If I sign a contract and I wasn't happy with how I was being treated or what I was being asked to do, I'd tell them to get fucked straight away. I don't care about the contract. But I think that's what I wouldn't work on these things, because I just wouldn't
put yourself in that position.
Yeah, I just wouldn't have it.
It's definitely a big learning curve as well. I feel like as I've got older, I've got less tolerance for people, and I pull my big girl's pants up when I need to, but there has been, through a lot of my career, I would say, as like a young female tattooist, that I let people probably treat and speak to me wrongly, like bosses at old studios and stuff like that. Whereas I've definitely, since becoming a mum, I've realised now that, you know, that's not okay. And, you know, if you don't like how someone's treating you, you make them know about that. And if they don't like it, then it is what it is. Yeah. You lose a lot of friends that way, and you lose a lot of people, but for the right reasons. So
yeah, for sure. With that being said, then, I mean, how popular tattooing has become now as well. Like, it's everywhere. It's so popular. There's so many people wanting to become tattoo artists and try and make a name for themselves in the industry, which I don't know whether you agree, but I feel like it's probably even more difficult now than it was. Is the industry missing anything? Does it need anything?
I feel like sometimes it's missing, what's the right words to use? Like, there's too much stigma with competition and stuff like that. I feel like it's really nice when you get recommended, like a client comes to you and they're recommended by another tattooist. I think that's such a good thing. That's something I've always done. You know, I'm not just greedy. I won't just pass it around the studio. Like, I'll allocate that job to someone that I think will do well, even if they're in a different studio, do it well, even if they're in a different studio. But I feel like there's not enough of that in the industry. I feel like it's quite egotistical, and I do feel like there is, you know, Do you know what I'm trying to say?
There's a lot of egos in tattooing.
Yeah.
But I think that's the case in most fields.
It's the same anywhere.
Dickheads everywhere. And there's people that probably think I'm a dickhead, but that's life, isn't it? Yeah. You're not going to please everyone, and if you try and do that, you'll never please yourself. So,
as mentioned in a previous video, silicone foregrip system, but they're Japanese steel, and they've got a needle stabilization system as well. Nice and smooth, really accurate, and just nice and strong and sharp.
I don't know if it's missing anything. I don't know. There's plenty of shows in there, for example. Like, there's a lot of conventions, maybe too many.
It feels like there's a lot more like kind of popping up now.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is missing. Like, there is, like, when I was trying to get into the industry, there was hardly any tattoo studios, and now it seems like someone can be tattooing for 2 minutes and they've opened their own studio, and I feel like that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, I was tattooing 10 years before I even thought about opening my own studio, and I still didn't feel like I almost deserved it, you know. But now I do feel like someone's been tattooing 2 minutes and they've opened a studio.
Yeah.
I think
there's no one to really clamp down on that.
It doesn't make sense, because I mean, you know, like running a studio, how much there is to think about. Like, Grace on the previous episode was saying about how, like, you're in charge of the morale of the studio and like making sure that the vibes, everyone's happy, and especially with creatives as well. We're all quite demanding, I swear. So it's tricky. And like, how can you open up a studio with no experience? You wouldn't do that in another industry. Like, you wouldn't just open a restaurant, would you, if you've never opened a restaurant?
No. I guess the proof is in the pudding. If the work coming out of that studio isn't very good, it's not going to last very long anyway. And if the work in the studio is not very good, you're not going to attract the right staff, and then you're almost just going to have a shit show. So I guess,
it's just an oversaturation of studios and tattooists, and I think there will be a breaking point. I think a lot of people will just struggle more and more, like, personally, and then as well, if they've got studios, I think there will be studios that close. Like, I just think there has to be a point where there's too many tattooists. Do you know what I mean? And not everyone's going to be able to survive tattooing, I believe. Like, but yeah, I definitely think, like, I agree that it's so easy now to open a studio. Like,
is it easier now to open a studio, or has it always been easy to open a studio but less people were attempting it?
Yeah, maybe. Like, I think
there was a lot of scaremonger, I think, years ago when I was younger, you know, especially with the studio that I worked in. Even the guy there was very scared of a certain, you know, group of people approaching him, and you're not allowed to be here, or you're on so-and-so's patch. Whereas it's not really like that anymore. So I feel like there's people just think that they can do it, and they can within their own right. They can do it, but there's no fear there of, like, you know, whose territory am I on? Am I too close to so and so? Am I too close to that studio? Like, there's none of that anymore, is there?
That sort of. But then I think that's also because you see, getting into the industry is probably more accessible now, and I think you see a different type of people that get into it. Like, it used to be, you know, more biker related and other things like that. It's changed massively, and there's a lot more artistic people that are coming into it that have got, you know, like, formal art backgrounds and stuff like that.
With no tattoos.
Well, some of them got no tattoos, yeah. But yeah, so I think you're seeing a different type of artist really that's coming in. They realise that there is good money to be made. It's easier to make good money tattooing than it is a lot of other art industries and stuff like that. So,
but then you've got the ones that start because of the money rather than the love for the art, which is that's when it goes wrong.
But then it goes back to what you said.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it won't last anyway.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't go into this just for the money because you'll never get anything back.
No. Yeah, I always say you literally have to live and breathe it, don't you? Any industry. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a really interesting topic, but I don't know. I don't know really. Yeah, cool. I'll tell you what, let's get on to it because we spoke a little bit briefly there about conventions. And I wanted to ask you both kind of like what your experience is with like guest spots and conventions and how important it is for any artists to kind of do that. Yeah, I think it's really important. I think I've always had positive experience from guest spots and conventions. I've done so many guest spots. Come back from Australia and I literally went all around the UK for like a few months and then went back to Oz. But that was really cool. Met loads of people doing that. Same with conventions. You get to meet a lot of people. Could just be like a cool thing to do, I think. Top convention, top guest spot that you've done?
Do you know what? The last convention I did was in New Zealand and I actually really liked that. And that was literally before the first lockdown started here as well. So like it was still normal in New Zealand. And then we got one of the last flights back from Australia before they shut the borders.
Of course, you're lucky.
And come back to lockdown here. But yeah, we brought food back from New Zealand in our luggage because like my mum and stepmum were like, everything's going from the shelves and we're like, fucking hell. So we packed food into our luggage because we thought what we're coming back to, like, it was just
like an apocalypse.
Weird. And it was weird that was happening here when everything was normal in New Zealand. So, but I really enjoyed that. That New Zealand convention was really cool. New Zealand in general was really cool.
A lot of people have said that. Yeah. I need to get over there. I just need to do more traveling, really.
It's hard when you've got a diary full of people and no one wants you to have a break, though, isn't it? It's really hard to travel with it.
And you sound like you've got your hands full. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Travelling's out the question for me. Everything's out the question for me for probably the next 5 years, I think.
Don't forget to head over to socials, drop me a message, and let me know who you'd like to hear from in the next episode.
You don't do many conventions?
No, I've done one convention in 14 years of tattooing, and that was the Bristol convention. I didn't enjoy it that much.
Why was that?
I prefer to walk around a convention and learn from a convention rather than actually being there. And again, I guess it's the pressure of everybody watching you. The conditions wasn't the best. It was very hot. There was a lot of people. It was very sweaty. I hate getting all my stuff packed up and carting it off and then having to reset up. Like, it's just not for it. That's why I've not really done the guest spots. I hate that whole, I like having my little space and having it perfect and just coming to work. It's just whole like packing it up. And
it's stress, isn't it?
It's stressful. I feel like you don't get that much back out of it. I mean, it could be different for you. You might have got loads back from like traveling around the conventions, but for me, I just always felt like I was just happy with what I was doing and I didn't really need to do that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Got a few. You're going to do a couple next year.
I think so. Yeah, like that's nothing confirmed, but that's the general sort of feeling I'm getting. Like, I think I used to do 7 or 8 a year for like a few years, and like you said, it does take it out of you, just all that packing up, traveling, like sorting out hotels, and it is a palaver. But so I think it's been nice that I've actually, like, because of the whole lockdowns and stuff anyway, it was kind of like an enforced break from it all. But I think it's been quite nice just to step away from that side of it a little bit, but only because I've done lots of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And it's good to network, isn't it?
Yeah,
going back to even doing this podcast today, it's good to say yes to new opportunities. And I probably would be more obliged now to do that. Now I've had children and I feel like I've had this like restriction almost on my career. Now I'm a bit more like open to do stuff. Whereas before I was just like happy being in my comfort zone.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's really great that we can kind of get you guys on here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to. Maybe I'll see you down at the convention next year, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to them. I haven't done many. I did the London one just gone, which was actually really good. Like, it was obviously the first year that they'd done it, but it definitely didn't feel like it was the first time. So I've kind of just dipped my toes in, but I wouldn't just do one big session for the whole day, because I like going out and chatting. Running the podcast from there as well is good, but I like doing a few walk-ups. I quite like the pressure though. I work under pressure, I think.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I'm I'd be too clumsy, knocking everything over and
There's always a bit that I like to kind of get into as well for any of the tattoo artists listening to this, and that's the nerdy bit, as what we talk about, like sponsors. I noticed yourself, like, you're sponsored by Extreme Ink. So talk to me a little bit about sponsorship, if you've got your eyes on any others, and just kind of the bits and pieces that you kind of use, your like go-tos, brands and machines, needles.
So yeah, sponsorship wise, Extreme Ink, they literally DM'd me on Instagram and just asked. I was actually sponsored by a Brazilian company called Electric Ink for a few years, and that come about because one of their sponsored artists in Brazil copied one of my pieces of work and like won an award in Brazil for it.
Shit.
And then I was like, what the fuck's going on here?
Did you see it? Or
yeah, I saw it, and then
how much of a copy?
It was a straight copy. And the owner of that company messaged me and offered me a sponsorship, and so I was like, yeah, all right, cool.
Got rid of him.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool how that come about. Is like, because to be honest, I don't really care if people copy my stuff. I don't give a shit, like whatever. So yeah, and then I just thought, I'll give these guys a go. Like, I just, you know what I mean? Just fancied a change. And I really like their inks. A really cool company. It's just no hassle. It's just, I need some more stuff. There it is. Cool. Sponsored by Penny Black as well. So I use that tattoo, but that's the same thing. It's just real easy. If I need stuff, just get sent out. And then Barber sponsored me as well.
Sick.
And they actually do like a real cool thing where every 3 months you basically get a ton of free stuff. So again, they're really good and hassle free. So like, yeah, I think I really appreciate that sponsorships, because it saves me a lot of money and it makes my life way easier. And then other than that, use FK Irons, who I would love to get sponsored by, but
you've heard it here first.
But I've used like direct to FK Irons for years now, and because I used to use coils, like I didn't want to touch a rotary, and then gradually just opened my sort of mind to using different products and different things. So yeah, FK Irons machine, mostly use quadrant needles, but I do use the Tatsol needles as well that I get from Barber.
There's the Envy. Are they the Envy needles?
Yeah, Tatsol Envy.
Yeah, with
which I tend to use the liners for that, and then quadrant mags is generally what I use. I find that I really like using them. So, and I use.
Do you use? Is it like, looking at your work? It's quite mag heavy, I presume. You're not using.
I don't do a ton of line work really. So yeah, it is mostly with mags.
But with a trad background, you must be so used to kind of that line work.
Yeah, if I need to, like, again, that's, I think a good thing about as well working in a street shop is that I know how to do line work as well. Like, I know how to do dot work. Like, I can kind of do most styles to like a decent enough level. So if I do want to like chuck some line work in anywhere, it's not all blown out and all over the place. It's, fairly clean. So yeah, but yeah, it's mostly mags, and I use curved mags. Like, I don't use flats. I just think they're too harsh. Like,
I use curved mag.
And I actually find it's just easier to pack solid with a curved mag. So yeah, curved mags. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all I use. Like, still use Duttol for a stencil.
Yeah, old school.
Old school, yeah, man. I don't think I'll ever stop using Dettol to put a stencil on. So
I didn't realise you did that.
Is it a tattoo shop if it doesn't stink of Dettol? Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, that's the old school smell, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think other than that, like, I think I've got like Ego Hawk Flip disposable grips, and I think that's everything I use.
Nice.
really. So, yeah.
So FK Irons.
Yeah,
Let's have a
Irons.
sponsorship.
And Back Team Max as well.
Sick. Oh yeah.
So yeah,
Back team,
man.
got to be done. You can you even get it over it?
Yeah,
anymore?
I get it through out of the States, and I've never had any issues getting it in. So
Decent. It's
yeah.
like a lifesaver. Isn't it?
I know.
There's like a lot of companies now do like sort of still they're doing new stuff like Back Tea, aren't they? And it's out and they've not been caught yet. I think when they get caught, it's not going to be out anymore. But
Yeah,
I've seen quite a few like
you just can't get
creeping
hold of
back
it
up, like the
online.
numbing stuff. Yeah. So, but I don't use it anymore. But your customers probably need it after 3 days.
Yeah.
What are your kind of go-tos?
I've always, well, not always, but I started out using coil machines. I think my first coil machine was like a little Mickey Sharp. So I remember turning up at a studio that I was being tattooed at with my little Mickey Sharps in my bag. Like, this is a machine I use. Can you give me a job? I actually did get a job there. So that was good. But could never tune them, like hated them. So as soon as I got onto a rotary machine, I never looked back. So I've always used Cheyenne. So I just sort of go like, I just follow what Cheyenne does now. I just stick with Cheyenne. And quadrant needles, yeah, I've not gone back since then. I do use the odd like Cheyenne needles, not the craft ones, but I do pretty much stick to quadrant now. And funnily enough, I've always used curve mags until recently. I accidentally bought a box of flats and actually really liked them, and now I've started using them for certain things, especially like if you're doing textures like hair strokes and stuff, and I actually am getting on with them at the minute, so I'm just
Oh, like so edging in with a mag.
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely better to do. You can get them a bit tighter.
Yeah, you could get tighter, definitely. But that's only been going on probably like a month, so I'm just like playing with that at the minute. And I use world famous black and grey.
Has anyone used any sponsorships, or have you been approached?
Nothing fancy over here like Andy, but actually Danny, my friend from the show, has got Checkmate now, which is doing quite well.
Yeah.
So I've got a little sponsorship on there, but like nothing else fancy.
Yeah, nice. I've used a lot of that stuff. The products are nice.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, they're cool.
He's doing well.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, he's a really nice guy as well. So there's also the only other bit I wanted to kind of give you really is the guest question, and that was left to you from the previous guest, which I think is a really good one. And that is,
as a tattoo artist, what would be your most humbling experience with a customer?
I would probably say how far some of my clients travel, which is pretty mental sometimes, I think. So yeah, but then I just think it's crazy that some of my work's walking around all around the world, really. And like the effort that some of them clients go to. And I appreciate the UK-based clients as well, because a lot of them are traveling far. But yeah, like, plane rides and all sorts of stuff, I think it's pretty mental. So
it's a testament to your work.
Yeah.
Man.
So I think something like that, I'd probably say, for me personally.
I think personally mine, this is like a really soppy one, but I think it's the friendships that I build. So I've got clients and it usually ends up, I don't know why, on like the same client that I end up having a really emotional day and crying to them. And then they're like, oh, and they've been through everything with me. Some of my clients, they've seen me in one relationship, at that relationship, like through like my marriage, through having kids, like ups, downs, highs, lows. And they all, like, I'm quite open. I'm an open book. So when I'm tattooing, like sometimes it is a bit of a therapy session for me and for my customers. So I feel like when you've got a good customer like that, when you feel like they're opening up to you, I'm with them a long time, like all day, and I can open up back to them, or I can be completely myself. I literally had an incident a few weeks ago where I had a client in who's seen me cry on more than one occasions, and he's always like, it's always fucking me when I'm in when you're crying. And I'm like, sorry. And then he's like, it's fine. And then we have a cuddle, and like that for me, like that's probably like my humbling moments when I feel like they come to me for more than just a tattoo, Yeah,
that's so nice that you can offer that. It is like it's quite an intimate thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tattooing. There's obviously some industries that are similar. I mean, I'm really good friends with my barber. You open up to them.
Yeah.
I'm seeing him every week.
Yeah.
And to be able to kind of offer that for clients, I think is great, especially when they kind of come back and
That's it. And I think sometimes,
like a year.
sometimes I think for certain people it is sometimes just about the experience. I'm sure a lot of my clients come to me and they know that they can get like better work for maybe the same price somewhere else, but they come for like the experience, you know. They like coming in, they like spending the day with me, they like spending the day at my studio with the people that I work with, and I think that's really important as well, to like connect with your clients.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I need you guys to leave, to give us a question to leave for the next guest, if possible. So whenever you're ready, fire away.
If you could choose a different career path that you knew you were going to earn more money in, would you leave the industry for that new career?
Okay.
I think. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
That does make
Okay.
sense. It's a good question.
That is a good question.
Because then it's like, how passionate are you about your job?
But also, are you passionate about this other industry or not? Is it just the money? Is it just the money?
Yeah. And
But
that,
are people
yeah.
going to admit that?
Not on camera.
Well, we'll see. I think it's really good. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it goes back to what you're saying. Like, you don't get into something like this for the money.
You know, if someone
It's a
said to
byproduct.
you, like, you can, I don't know, you can go and be a mechanic tomorrow and you're going to earn $2,000 a day. Would you go and do it?
No.
No. Some people might. They might choose the money.
If it was 200 grand a day, I might.
Yeah.
I might.
Go and play football.
But
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think
Sweet. It's been really good. Thank you so much for having us
It's okay.
down.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great to kind of meet you both and just kind of get a bit more of an insight into.
I'm really sorry that I didn't put the radiators on, by the way. It's
it's cold, isn't
absolutely
it?
Baltic
It is a
in
bit
here.
cold, but it's all right.
Really cold.
Don't
but
worry about it.
Yeah, no, sorry.
But yeah, nice to meet you both. And thanks
you.
again.
It's all right.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this week. Don't forget to hit that bell icon and the follow button wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube as well. I'm Alex Lloyd, and this is the 21st Century Tattoo. Thanks for listening.